All right, for our viewers at home, could you introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your film, starting with Shin?
Hi, my name is Xiang Wei. I'm actually the subject of the documentary Almost Naked.
And what is your film about? What is the documentary about?
The film is about I'm an artist and a photographer, and the film is about me travel around the world. The film was most filmed in China and the United States, and follow me around the country to make self-portraits.
Awesome. Liz and Jamie?
Hi, I'm Liz Ortiz, and I'm the director of the feature-length documentary and scene, the subject being Jamie Patron. And my background is as a casting director for about 22 years now, has been speaking up to producers and content creators about more inclusion and more reflection. I actually coined a term that somebody will absolutely steal and appropriate, but I came up with the term about 3 years ago called reflective casting. And it's very simple. We need to reflect what is in the population, tell those stories, and then we have to reflect why in 2021 it's still a damn problem. And the film particularly deals with challenging mainstream perceptions within the entertainment industry about performers with disabilities. And I was so exhausted as a casting person to speak up to content creators and the people that would hire me about including actors with disabilities within the casting arena. And I was met with more resistance than not that I said, I need to make a damn documentary about this. And over the years, Jamie and I would run into each other. It's a very small community, especially here in New York. And I just needed to say something. And that's why the movie had to happen.
Jamie, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Jamie Patron. I am the subject of And Scene. And yes, just going off of what Liz just said, I have been in the industry for many, many years, a long time when I was not disabled. And becoming disabled made me have to learn how to navigate the system much differently. This system where you felt like you knew the directors. Now you were coming in a wheelchair and all of a sudden their wheels would start turning, but it would be just a very different scene. So yeah, so I've been grateful to be part of this.
We'll start with Ann Scene. Liz, tell me about your anger. I mean, you're an industry veteran, you know, it's all pent up, you're mad as hell, and you're going to do something about it. You're going to make this documentary. Tell me about this process.
Well, I was just so tired of having to explain what I think is just so clear and obvious. And generally speaking, because there have been some successes and some victories along the way, but more often than not, I was met with a lot of resistance and a tremendous amount of ignorance. So I was met with just comments like, well, do you mean black people? I'm like, we're not talking about cultural identity. We're talking about talented individuals that happen to move about life maybe a little bit differently than you and I. And I don't think it's that deep. So I was met with a lot of resistance. Oftentimes there is this stigma, and in my observation, I attribute it to something very unconscious and very primal, really getting into a DNA cellular situation of survival of the fittest. And if I avoid what I'm so afraid of, maybe it won't happen to me. And the same way that we age, and the same way that most of us will end up having some form of disability if we live long enough. I think it's that primal fear that there's that resistance unless you have direct experience within your own personal life. Or I would be met with a lot of patronizing comments. Oh, I never thought about that before. Oh, that sounds good. And all I really wanted to do as a casting person is have an open session and I'm all about the best actor for the job. Now, Jamie Patron happens to be one very talented performer. Okay, so do not get me wrong. This is not charity. This is not bleeding heart activism. This is reflection. So there are very talented performers out there that get around a little bit differently or communicate or express a little bit differently. So I was so tired with being met with platitudes, and then I backed it up. And if you see the documentary, I back it up with Jamie's personal experience, which cross references into other performers with disabilities that are included in the film. And we tell very true, very scathing stories.
Yes.
And this film will always be for non-broadcast because, you know, I broke a few laws and I don't want to get in trouble.
Just keeping it real.
And, you know, we have to keep it real because, you know, what was so mind-blowing. I'm really glad you made this documentary because,
thank you.
You know, we really, disabled people with disabilities are in our everyday lives. You go to any parking lot here in Texas or anywhere in the United States, there's handicap parking. You know, I would like to say that, you know, when we go to church or synagogue or, you know, a community event that we go to, we always run into someone with disability, whether it be a seen disability, like someone in a wheelchair or whatnot, or, you know, a disability that we can't really see from the outside. And it's just mind blowing that, you know, Hollywood or Broadway doesn't think like this. So Jamie, what was it like putting your story out there? You became very vulnerable, you know, you told a lot of hard stories, you know, and you put yourself out there. So tell me a little bit about that process.
So the process is my life. So it's hard to separate the two. So the process of making this film was just what I do every day. I mean, this is the industry I'm in. This is what I do. So telling my story was sort of just came out of that. And it was all very in real time. It was all happening in real time. So these things that I was going through, it was tough to be vulnerable in a way because I mean, there were things that maybe I wouldn't want the entire world to know, but vulnerability is a strength. And I will say that until the day I die. The more vulnerable you are, the more real that you are, the more people are relating to you. And it was really important to tell my story because my story is not so different than so many other talented actors. And to be able to have a platform to tell that was important. I was on committee. Well, this was a whole campaign that we did for IMPWD, Inclusion in the Arts of Media of People with Disabilities, performers with disabilities. And when we met in these rooms, we met with industry writers, directors, all of these producers. And the one comment that I was getting more than anything was, well, the reason we don't have the people in the room is because we can't really find actors with disabilities that are trained. And I just called that BS because I couldn't believe that of all the people I know that are so talented and just happen to have whatever disability they have, that they didn't see them. It blew my mind. That is why I started Disability, my organization, and it is to train performers, and it's a performing arts conservatory and a professional theater company to train performers of all abilities. It's not about separating. It's not about, we have the disabilities, we're going to put you in a room. It's about inclusion, because that's what the world is. When we walk into this audition, they're not going to say, well, we're going to have the wheelchairs here and we're going to have the rest of the people here, right? It's all inclusive. But I needed to prove to them that there are so many people that you're missing, you're overlooking, because you're looking for the easy way out. They're looking for the money, you know, it's a lot of money. They think in their minds, oh, now we gotta adapt things to make it all accessible. And they're afraid to put the money into that, I think. Now it is changing. I do feel the shift. And it's from when we started making the movie till now, I feel like it's beginning to shift. but it is beginning. It is not, we're not that far, you know?
Right.
So I just thought that it was really important to be vulnerable, to be real, to let you know what my day-to-day is. It's not, this isn't a secret, but it isn't necessarily something that is easy to talk about. So yeah, it was difficult. And honestly, I was very, very sick. I almost died twice making this movie. And this was, I mean, there were times that it was hard to kind of keep going with it, but it's that important. So we needed to keep going with it. And I'm proud of it. I'm glad that we did. I think that it makes a statement that the world needs to hear. I think it's really, really important for not just the industry, but for the rest of the world to hear too, that, you know, this inclusion needs to happen now. So
Now, Shen, we're gonna switch to your film. What I really, you know, with Liz and Jamie's film, vulnerability is kind of the theme of these interviews, and you become very vulnerable in front of the camera. You know, you photograph yourself naked, like you said in the documentary. You know, naked self portraits of men are not, you know, not something common. We used to seeing women. So tell me a little bit about, you know, how did the filmmaker approach you that they wanted to document you, and take me through that process of like opening up to the documentary filmmaking team and making yourself very vulnerable, because on the screen I can, while watching, I can feel your vulnerability, but also too felt your comfort and that you're comfortable in your own skin.
Actually, it starts about 13 years ago when the director Liang Man, who is based in Beijing, and he discovered my work through Chinese social media. And at the time, I was actually just graduate from grad school in New York, and I'm just started making my naked self-portraits. And he found it was very interesting to see a Chinese man making naked self-portrait, and not only making it in the US, but making in China and all over the world. And so he sent me an email, just said, this is very interesting to me. So then we kind of just disconnected. And not until 2000, I think, what's the year? I think it was 3-4 years ago. And he all of a sudden resurfaced. And at the time, I was already 7 years in, making my very long series called "I Miss You Already." It's all self-portrait of me, travel around the world, and he said I would like to make a documentary of you because it's very interesting to see what you were doing, and then we started discussing what this documentary should be about. So we had quite a lot of conversation about the ideas, where we're gonna shoot the film, because I'm based in here in New York, and they're from the whole team is from Beijing, and then in 2018 I was making a short film myself, a quite explicit short film. And I sent it to the director Liang Man, and somehow that became the beginning of the concept of this film. They want to kind of just follow me through the process, how I go to different locations, how to pick the location, how to integrate myself into the environment. I shot self-portraits both indoors, a lot in hotels. So in the film, we have a specific scene set up, shooting in a hotel room, and a lot I shoot mostly actually in nature. So I will picking a few locations, and the crew just will follow me and follow me making my picture basically.
So it's such a beautiful documentary, and
Thank you.
you know, you do it so elegantly, and you know, you make yourself very vulnerable, and you really explain the process and your thought process, and I really think that makes the documentary. Liz,
Yeah.
you know, for the reference of this interview, it's May 9th. Last night we had Elon Musk, who was on Saturday Night Live and dropped the bombshell that he was on the spectrum. and we, have, TV shows like The Good Doctor on ABC that deals with someone with disabilities. So tell me where we are right now as far as, we're seeing a lot more disabled people on screen, but it's not enough. I totally agree. So where are we right now, and what do casting directors, your fellow casting directors, and what do production, and not even in Hollywood but Broadway, or these film schools, what do they need to do?
Well, there has been, fortunately, in the fallout of the Black Lives Matter movement, where everybody was just like, we're so damn tired. We're so done with this marginalization and this divisiveness, that in the wake of that, there was a very lengthy document created by theater makers of color to the theater community. And many directives have been put in place, initiated by individual theater companies. And there was a statement that came out maybe about a month ago or less that documented, it's 120 pages, because 120 theater companies said, we're doing this, based on this call to action called Dear White Theater. And it kind of gave a step-by-step call to action. So the climate is ripe and it's perfect. And I like, by any means necessary, to quote Malcolm X. So if someone's afraid of losing their job, if someone's afraid of losing their funding, if someone's afraid of losing kickbacks from the union in terms of different perks that they can get, however we can get there, the climate is good. It would be lovely that it doesn't have to be so special. For instance, with the Oscars, the slate of pictures, and I'm going to highlight the documentary Crip Camp, made by a friend and colleague of ours, Jim Lebrecht, who is also a wheelchair user, and that was nominated well deservedly for an Oscar, and won audience favorite at Sundance, and also won Best Doc for Independent Spirit Awards. So the climate is so right, and for whatever reasons people have, whether they're heartfelt or superficial or financially driven, or who cares, that at least now there is, it's attention, we're paying attention to this. And instead of making the most recent slate of pictures that we had at the Oscars, instead of saying that's so special, I think that's the blueprint.
Yes.
And let's just go up from there and let's see what happens. So however people are motivated, I really don't care. But the fact that it's a conversation, and I was on a panel not too long ago, theater panel through the CUNY system, City University of New York system, lots of other theater people and people in the industry. And the question that they asked all of us, what would you like to see 5 years from now? And my rude ass said, 5 years from now, I'd like not to be asked to be on a panel like this.
Mazel tov.
Stop making it special. And I never specialized in telling and helping to tell these stories. What I gravitate toward is brilliant writing, and then see what those stories require in terms of who's going to be responsible with telling this story as actors. Everybody else made me special as the diversity queen. And it's not a title that I embrace. It's not one that I accept. I just want to tell good stories with the right people to tell them, and to have the full spectrum of who's out there that's reflecting, my favorite word, reflecting what's outside when we look out the window.
Lastly, we're out of time, unfortunately. But lastly, I want to get everyone's websites. And so, Liz, if you could tell us the website for your documentary. Jamie, we want to support your organization and send people your way. Tell us your website about that. And then lastly, Shin, I want to support your photography because it's beautiful and I think people should see it. So after they two go, then tell us where we can find your photography and support you as an artist. So Liz, go.
Okay, so you can find everything out about us, the doc, at I have to spell it, IAINTPLAYIN. I ain't playing films, no punctuation, no G, because I'm gangster like that. I ain't playing, no G, I ain't playing, no G, films, .com.
Awesome. Jamie, what's the website for your organization so we can learn more about your cause and join you?
Absolutely. My organization, the website is This Ability, not Disability, not DIS, but THIS abilityarts.org. That's
right.
it.
And Shen, where can we support the documentary that you're in, but also to support your photography?
My own website, personal website is Shen Wei. My name shenwei.studio. You will find a link of the film on my website. And I'm also represented by Flowers Gallery in Hong Kong, London, and New York. So it's flowersgallery.com.
Thank you so very much for allowing me to interview you guys. I mean, it's two wonderful films.
Thank you.
I hope everyone that wants to see it gets to see it. So I do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.